Hello, and welcome back again to my podcast where you come with me on a journey through authenticity and what that looks like for, well, mostly myself, but what that may look like for others as well. I know in the last episode, I touched on um, vulnerability and what that means uh, when it comes to being authentic and when it comes to being authentic with others and when it comes to showing up as your most authentic self. Uh, in that one, I believe I briefly touched on being vulnerable and being Black. And in this one, I'm going to go in a little deeper with what that means and what my personal experience has been, as well as giving some answers from uh, a new friend of mine who has been also on her own journey of authenticity. In this, I will go a little bit more about how it feels to be vulnerable and some people who have been vulnerable while Black. I know that in the last episode, I defined the word vulnerability and how it's ultimately about being open and showing your true self. And while it sounds lovely and amazing, for many Black people, being vulnerable can feel incredibly risky and unsafe. Given the realities of racism, discrimination, and the dehumanization we face as Black people, the Black experience of vulnerability and what that means is it means having to mask your true self for survival, such as code switching and wearing an armor in white spaces for fear of being judged, ridiculed, or even punished for showing emotions. Growing up, we do have a lack of adults in Black spaces who model vulnerability because those said adults have had to be strong. You know, they've had to endure situations and circumstances outside of the home. And like I said, these are even certain things that I've gone through. I can count on a few times, but I can definitely count on one time where I was working at a crystal shop. And I can definitely assure you, I was probably the first Black person that they've ever had work in that establishment, most likely. And at the time, I was the only Black person working at that establishment. I was not the only person of color, but I was the only Black person. And I remember I was talking to a couple of coworkers. You know, we were just like usual, we were just straightening the jewelry trays and, just shooting the shit. And I can't remember how the conversation came about, but there were four people in the conversation, including myself. One of them, he was um, I think he was somebody who was into films, and we had discussed Key and Peele for like a quick second. And I thought it was really cool that this white boy knew who Key and Peele was. I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been because of Aaron, but I was like, huh. And then I forgot the name of the movie. Is it Sorry for Your Inconvenience? Something like that, I think. But he had mentioned a movie where they had touched on code switching. And anybody that knows me knows that, first of all, I have 50 million voices. I have 50 million inflections of ways of how I say things. I switch to a British accent, a Jamaican accent. I have 50,000 people that live in my mouth. That sounds weird, but I switch on and off. However, the most important switch that I've ever had to make in my life is the code switching when I need to be professional, having your white voice. And then when I'm with my friends, when I'm country and I'm all relaxed and I'm quote unquote ghetto. I really hate using that term. It sticks in my craw. I love it because we're reclaiming the word. Because I do think that ghetto and fabulous, they just go together. It's just a beautiful thing to me. But in that situation, we were talking about how, I get looked at. First of all, I have claws for nails. I like my extra long coffin, glitter, what have you. I wear a ton of rings, big earrings. My hair's always big and curly. And I'm country. I've finally come to terms with the fact that I am country. And as much as I try to hide that accent, when I get very relaxed or when I'm passionate about something, you can hear it. It comes out. It's there. It's always there. And I was talking to my two other coworkers. They're women and they're both white. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, I know exactly what it feels like to have to code switch because it's crazy that I have to go home. I can be on the outside, hanging with my friends, chilling cool, and minding my business. And I'm talking the way that I'm most comfortable. And then I have to come into work and fix the way that I speak because when someone looks at me, if I sound like the way that I know I'm most comfortable sounding, they're going to be like, oh my God, look at this uneducated Black person. Here just goes another uneducated. Why can't she speak proper? Why doesn't she speak properly? How come she can't enunciate more? Well, what is she saying? Why do they always have to talk like that? I get the stares. I get the looks. I get the passive aggressive, oh, aren't you just so cute? Almost as if I'm completely uneducated and I know nothing at all. I've had the, oh my goodness, you speak so well. Where are you from? Bitch, born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. Where you think I'm from? Where do you think I'm from? What does it sound like to you? It hurts my feelings so much to know that I have to make this switch just so that somebody can look at me and say, this is a human being who has some sort of intelligence. Because if I speak the way that I really want to talk, you're going to look at me like I'm crazy. You're going to look at me like I done lost my damn mind. I'm extremely passionate about this because I still remember the conversation and I wanted to say something so badly. But after I said, I know what it's like to have to code switch because people look at me like I'm uneducated when I want to talk the way that I want to talk. And one of my coworkers, actually both of them, were like, well, I think everybody has to do that. Excuse me? Everybody has to do that? No, 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 baby. Not everybody has to do that because y'all are capable of sounding country and it's just country to y'all. But I'm capable of sounding country and uneducated and ghetto and uncivilized because of the way that I naturally talk, because of the natural accent that I have in my Black ass voice, because of the natural accent that I gained from my Black ass family. You don't have to go through that. But my brain said, Seja, don't do that. Do you really want to have this conversation right now? Is it really your job to teach these white folk that it's different for me because I am Black than it is for them because they are not? Do I really want to do that? And the truth was that no, I didn't want to do that because I could feel myself getting angry. I could feel myself getting passionate. I could feel myself getting hurt. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle the conversation right now, being where I am without hurting somebody's feelings. And I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and exit stage left. And I was like, okay. And I just walked away because I was like, no, it's not the same, but okay. Because I was like, how ignorant do you have to be to think that it's not the same? I just had somebody not too long before that make fun of my accent and say, ooh, you can hear that Texan. I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, I guess. I guess we'll let that be. Only for me to experience a few years later, an older white woman while I was working at Sephora asked me, "You do speak very well. Were you raised here?" The fuck do you mean by that? The fuck do you mean was I raised here? Again, where you think I'm from? Yes, I was raised here. As was my mother, as was her mother. My family been in Dallas, Texas for a very long time, ma'am. Granted, we done moved from Oak Cliff to Addison to Garland to Mesquite to good old North Dallas, but we've been here. Where you from? You don't sound like nobody I've never seen. It's wild that I feel the need to correct these white folk like that. But if I were to be that way, and if I were to stand up for myself, if I were to actually have that conversation with those coworkers that day, I would have been coming off as the angry black woman. I'm pretty sure somebody would have been like, whoa, hey, Sajid, look, we're not trying to be mean or anything. Hold up. Don't try to sit here and patronize me and placate my ass just because now you feel the fire. Now you feel the heat. Now your ass is getting all this smoke. No, what you're going to do is you're going to listen with open ears. You're going to listen with an open heart because your experience has not been my experience. Having to go through that, knowing that I want to make friends with people, but I have to be careful with what kind of people because some people may not be okay with my blackness, sends me into this this inner battle of, is it really okay for me to be black in front of these people without them trying to utilize it as, oh, hey, I must be cool now that I have a black friend. It must be okay for me to say these things now that I have a black friend. Oh, my one of my greatest friends is black. She would be okay with that. Mm. Now, I may be, but I do have other black friends that are not. So if one of my black friends decides to whoop your ass because you wanted to say some crazy shit, because you decided that was okay when you're around me, I'm not gonna stop them. I'm just letting you know that now. I'm not gonna help you. I'm gonna just let you get your ass whooped because that was your fault for thinking that this black person was the monolith and the spokesperson for all other black folk. Not true. That was your own ignorance. And that was your own incapability of seeing me as a person and seeing them as people, individuals. It's difficult to be vulnerable with people who do not understand your experience because they've never experienced it. Because now you have to go to this person and say, hey, you may not understand this, but you know, that hurt. And it hurt because I'm a black person and you're not. Only to either have this person say, oh, you're being too sensitive about it, though. Much like how I felt when I had that conversation with my two coworkers. I was like, how come is it that, and I'm telling you, I should not have been like this with this white man, but I was like, how come is it that this white man in this polo can understand that code switching is a real thing? And that two people who are in the spiritual business can't understand that in this 3D world, racism is still very real and very much alive. And what y'all are doing right now is minimizing my experience as a black person. I wasn't okay with the conversation, but I also felt like I didn't have a place to speak. I was worried about being vulnerable in that moment because I was worried that I was going to get upset. I was worried that I was going to ruin maybe some potentially great friendships. I was worried that I was going to, kill the vibe of the place. When I kick myself now, because here I am talking about it openly on a podcast, and I still feel like I can't go to those people and be like, hey, yo, I just want to let you know that shit was fucked up that you said like all them years ago, and it still bothers me because it was very racist of you to try to minimize my experience as a black person because y'all don't understand because you're not black, and you will never understand because you're not black. When I think about situations like that where it's difficult for a person to be black in a white space, it does remind me of my mom a lot too. She's a dark skinned black woman. And when I see how some people treat her and what some people say to her when she's at work, I want to look at her and be like, say something. Like, say something. But then she relays to me, I don't want to be the angry black woman. I don't want people to look at me like that and for my job to be put on the line because I'm trying to stand up for myself and someone automatically thinks that I'm angry. Isn't that sad? It's so hurtful. It's harmful. It's disrespectful. And it does nothing but perpetuate this constant cycle of hurt, of pain, of shame, of silence. And it's very different because white people can be vulnerable. They can set themselves up for this a big old blowout full of tears and yelling and stressed words. But a black person cannot, especially a black woman. With white vulnerability, there is this socioeconomic privilege that allows for vulnerability without some sort of risk. They have the space to be soft or emotional without being perceived as weak or irate. Vulnerability is more celebrated in white spaces and culture than it is in black culture. I've never seen my uncle cry. My uncle's a black man. I've never seen him cry. I've never seen my own mother cry. I can count on one hand. It's been 3 times that I've ever seen her cry. A whole 31 years this woman has been in my life, my entire life, and I've only ever seen her cry 3 times. Black people don't have the same models of emotional vulnerability from their parents and their community like white people do. And with that and with that there comes more people who are seeing that pattern and who are trying to break that narrative of shame and guilt when it comes to being vulnerable within the black community. A couple of examples that I think about immediately are um Taraji P. Henson. She was open about her depression and her anxiety. Megan. And let me tell you something. When Megan got on her live, I was present for that. I love that woman. When she got on her live and she cried about how she was assaulted by this man. She was shot, for God's sake. she anything could have happened to that woman. When I saw her and her level of vulnerability, when she actually showed that she was scared and she was hurt, both emotionally and physically and mentally, I saw my mother in her. I saw my cousins. I saw my aunt. I saw myself. I saw my friends, because I was like, you went unprotected by so many people, even your own. And it's like, we have people who are trying to be vulnerable. These are Black women who are being vulnerable. Beyonce, like, we all know what Lemonade was about. Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale. We have so many names in the Black community and Black culture who have been vulnerable and found their authenticity and have helped many others in doing so. You know, Taraji has her Boris Henson Foundation, uh, and Megan has the Bad Bitches Have Bad Days Too. Both of those are important sites to look at if you are needing to reach out for help. Because much like Megan said in that commercial, being vulnerable like is what makes us whole. It's what makes us strong. Telling somebody, hey, you know, that hurt me. Telling somebody, hey, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm worried. I'm excited. I'm anxious. This is something that I've been anticipating forever. Being open with people. Give somebody else the permission. Give somebody else the stage. Give somebody else that safe space to say, oh my God, you know what? Me too. Bitch, me too. A book that I recently got into, I have it in audiobook form. Thank you, Audible. But it's a collection of short stories and poems and things of that sort, titled "You Are the Best Thing: Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience." It's edited by Tarana Burke, I believe that's how you say her name, and Brene Brown. And if I'm not mistaken, I touched on Brene Brown in my part one episode of vulnerability, where she has a book called The Power of Vulnerability, if I'm not mistaken. I also have that in audiobook form, and my God, did I cry on the both of them. I'm still listening to You Are the Best Thing. I haven't finished yet. I have quite a few audiobooks and like regular books on Kindle in rotation. I'm just a chronic reader. And I can honestly tell you that I had to take a break from it quite a few times because I cried. The experiences in You Are the Best Thing are so relatable if you are Black. Even though there are some of them that I did not personally go through, like there's one in there in particular about a religion and being a Black woman. There were things that I did not specifically go through, but I saw others go through. And a lot of them are very relatable because within our community, like I said, even if I did not experience that, me as a singular solitary person, even though I did not go through that exact same experience, I saw somebody, I saw a loved one, another Black woman go through something like that. And to know that in our community, we are so intertwined through these experiences that were handed down like generation after generation after generation. And now we're seeing the strength, but also the flaws that had come with that. I am floored by how we as Black people share an experience, and that is being Black. I love being Black, first of all. I love being Black. I consider myself Black. I'm mixed, but I am anybody that I ask, I'll be like, no, I'm Black. No, I'm Black. My experience has been Black. Even the experiences that I've had as a mixed Black person still come from me being Black. The stuff that I have seen from my other Black community, my family, my friends, friends of family, family of friends, like I've seen how we truly are connected off of just off of being Black, off of having that experience. Like I said, with my mother being a dark-skinned Black woman, I have seen some things firsthand where I am truly disgusted by how the world decides to treat us, especially if you don't fit into the mold of being a normal Black person or a regular Black person, whatever that's supposed to mean. Just again, not a monolith. We're capable of being multifaceted creatures and human beings just like anybody else on planet Earth. Just like another creature on planet Earth is capable of listening to two different types of music and liking certain types of movies, so are we. We should be allowed to be different. We should be allowed to be vulnerable. We should be allowed to be ourselves, no matter what that entails. No matter what that looks like to the next person over, no matter what it looks like to John, Jim, and Harry down the street, no matter what it looks like to Katie, Catherine, and Kim, we are capable of being multifaceted people in our own authenticity and whatever that means to us. And we should have a safe space to do so. We should also have a space of people who are not Black and who are capable of being like, oh, I don't understand what that's like at all, but please tell me what your experience has been like, and please tell me how I can support you. Please tell me what it is that I can do for you and how I can be there more for you so that you don't feel alone, so that you don't feel alienated, so that you don't feel isolated, so that you don't feel like you can't be a vulnerable Black person around me. Those are the types of spaces that we need to foster, not just within the Black community, but with other communities. I recently asked a new friend of mine, I mentioned her earlier in the podcast, to answer a few questions. And I do wish my setup was bomb enough to have had her like on, but with the way that I'm recording this, I got to figure out some stuff before I actually get people on in here. But she gave me a great idea and another opportunity to have her on later, so that I'm just grateful that, you know, the universe saw fit to put this person in my pathway so that we could connect. Um, but she is also a Black woman who has been on her own journey of self-discovery and authenticity and just showing up and doing what feels best to her. And I honestly started the first episode of this because, first of all, the need to just be in contact with her, the need to just connect with her was just nagging in my mind. And I know Spirit was like, girl, do something with all them ideas. Don't just sit here. You know you want to run your mouth. Find people to run your mouth with. Find people who see you. Find people that you see and run your mouth with those people. Cause you know what you want to do. You just scared to do it. And the moment that I started having all of those thoughts, she posted something on LinkedIn where she was like, hey, I'm changing a whole bunch of stuff about how I'm going about things in my life. She was like, I want to create. And I was like, girl, me too. Sometimes you just want to sit down and just like make stuff, and it don't even have to have a plan to it. She was like, I want to be in flow. I was like, Jesus, don't we all? Don't we all just want to be? She was like, I'm changing my trajectory of my life to go somewhere where it feels more comfortable and more authentic to me. And that was the word that stuck out. Because I was like, authentic. That damn word has been on my mind for years now. Because I really don't know what it means. Therein, here goes this journey that I started. So she's been such a huge inspiration to me, because being a Black woman and me seeing somebody who, first of all, was in the cannabis industry and who works in that, and who seems so just just bright, and like she's super groovy and unique and imaginative. She's colorful, she's creative, and she just seems so dynamic. She's someone who just, I felt this flow, and she just seems like she wants to flow with life and is on a mission to keep it that way, even if it gets like chaotic. I'm just so inspired by seeing her grow and be herself, no matter how quote unquote different or strange or weird people might find that. No matter where, no matter what type of immediate thought or negative connotation they may have, just by watching her do what she does. She's just being herself, and she wants to continue to be herself. So I asked her a few questions because I was so inspired by her, and I have her answers written, but you can give her page a look. Go ahead. Her Instagram is at it's a life in the day of Kenya. So hopefully I'll like write that down somewhere so y'all can take a look at that. But she really is just an absolute peach. I've only talked to her a couple of times, but every time I see her online, I'm just like, yes, can we have more of whatever it is that you're putting out onto planet Earth, because we need people like this. It's a very inspiring thing. Oh my God, times 1, 2, 3, and my battery's on 45. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Crazy. But she's just very inspiring to me, because like I said, seeing somebody who decided to go against societal norms and go against the grain of what it means to be a human being on planet Earth and all of its fluctuating components, I was just like, yeah, because that's something that I have always been afraid to do, even around my own family. So to have her, be set herself up as an example, and then me being the visual pathway of seeing it, I was like, yo, I have to ask her these questions, because I mean, I'm asking them myself, and if I'm only ever asking these questions to myself, am I ever really getting an answer? I don't think so. So I have her answers, and what I'm gonna do is, because it's kind of a setup where you're only gonna hear my voice, I am going to ask the question, and then I'm going to answer it how it's written. Did that even make sense? You'll get it. So the first question that I asked her was, what does it mean to you to be authentic? And her answer was, I think that for me, being authentic is honoring myself for exactly who I am in that moment. I think for so long, I have really struggled with being who I am. I always wanted to be some other version of myself, someone who was prettier, smarter, less awkward, et cetera, et cetera. So now in this moment, to be okay with who I am, where I am, and how I am, while understanding that it doesn't have to be my final destination, is what authenticity means to me. It's grace, love, kindness, and flow. Oh my gosh. Just a great answer. Because I feel like everyone can feel some form of that. Like, you know where she's coming from. You don't know this girl, but you know where she's coming from. The second question I had asked her is, how have you been going about that? And her answer was, I've just been putting myself out there more. I've been working on creating things rather than doing things. I think that's when I get a little fucked up. When I start doing stuff, that's when I feel that I'm no longer operating in the most authentic version of myself. Doing comes across as forcing it, but to be creating is to be in flow. Just snaps all around. Snaps all around. Question 3, I had asked, so how has it been so far? And her answer was, it's been so challenging. She said, we are brought up in a society in which we are rewarded for doing from the very beginning. It is programmed in our DNA. So to rebel against it at this point is fighting my entire operating system. But it's been such a beautiful experience to get to know myself better and to get more comfortable with being me. So it's going. It's up and it's down, but things are always coming together for my greatest good. I absolutely adored her answers. Now, I didn't tell her this because I know a lot of people, like, they get kind of freaked out by criers, and I am a crier. I cry at least 4 times a week, and most of the time it's just stuff that I see. Like, I cry so easily at ASPCA commercials, it's not even funny. Um, I didn't tell her this, but I cried after I read her answers because there it's stuff that's I have thought about. You know, everyone's experience is unique, and yet we all have some sort of connecting factor where we can understand one another. And based off her answers, I was like, this is all stuff that I've thought of myself. But I was always too afraid to put those into action because I was so scared that, someone's going to look at me and say, why are you pretending? You always act different. One of her first answers was, honoring who she is at that moment. And that's a lesson that I had recently learned myself in how I am supposed to operate as a singular solitary human being, as me, as Sasia. I, much like Kenya, another human being and all of its fluctuating components. Emotions don't stay the same. Your path doesn't look the same. The actions that you take, the way that you speak, the words that you speak, the stuff that you listen to. You are supposed to be an ever changing being that is constantly growing and expanding your knowledge, your spirit, your energy, the people that you know. You are constantly supposed to be growing. You are constantly supposed to be changing. That is what we are. That is what we do. Because you can't stay stagnant. It's not possible for you to and be happy. It's not possible. And yet some people are so afraid of change. They're so afraid of being different that they try to fit and fold themselves into a mold that was never created for them. And to recognize that in order to be authentic, you have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there. Still something that I'm having trouble doing because I am afraid of being seen. So to see her say, like, I'm just putting myself out there. Like, this is just the action. There's no like thought behind it of, well, what happens if I do? She's just doing that. She is the doing that she's doing is her creating, if that makes any sense to anybody. But I know what she means by like doing. When you're like I said, when you're folding, trying to fit yourself into a mold that you know you're not really supposed to fit in. Oh, well, you got to go to your 9 to 5. You got to go to your regular desk job because this is what everyone says. You got to do A, B, C, D because this is what everyone says. This is what everyone feels like you should do. Society says that you're supposed to be doing this. And if you do this the way that they say, they'll give you a good pat on the back. But will you be happy? I had to ask myself that. Am I really happy doing what I know is making other people happy? Or am I just doing it to avoid some bigger issue? Putting yourself out there, you have to be vulnerable to do that, because now you're opening yourself up to people ridiculing you, making fun of you, just dogging you out. You're also opening yourself up to people who knew you in the past who are like, aha, I remember when you used to do this. They're going to try to bring you back down to what they knew you as. And it's like, no, baby, you don't know me no more. I mean, that's who I was. But because I am a constantly ever changing being, I have formulated myself into a new person, and that should be okay with people. And if it's not okay with people, fuck them. They just can't be in your life no more then. Doesn't matter who it is. Jobs, loved ones, friends. Doesn't matter who it is. They just may have to exit stage left. Because they can't come to terms with the fact that you were capable of change. And now you are doing so, and you are so comfortable with who you are right now in this moment. And that bothers people for some reason. I don't know why, but it bothers people instead of inspires them. And what I'm trying to get people to understand is you should be inspired by that. You shouldn't feel attacked by somebody being themselves. And you shouldn't feel attacked and like who you are as a person, the foundation that you are should not feel shaky when somebody decides, you know what? I don't think I like listening to that music no more. I don't think I like doing this. And I don't think I like drinking that no more, eating that no more. I think I want to change. I want to change. And I don't know what I'm about to change, but I'm about to just try some stuff. I'm about to just figure it out, try on a couple different hats and see what it feels like. That should be okay because you are evolving. You are witnessing your own evolution in real time. And that should be okay. You know, like I said, reading her answers really did. I was like, damn, like that's literally some stuff that I've yes, yes to all of that. Finger snaps all around. The most perfect answers because there's no true right or wrong way to be authentic. You just have to be. You just have to create. You have to be in a flow, in a state of like that's just so present. That's so here in your body where you're just like, I feel like going left today instead of right. Or you know what? I don't think I want to read this book right now. My head's not in it. I think I'm just going to go outside and get some sidewalk chalk and draw on the sidewalk. Or if you're anything like me, I love to play in the rain. And I get stared at. So I haven't done it in a while because I know people be like, what the hell? We need to put her in a padded room. And it's just like, no, to be right now, to be here in this meat sack, okay, in this physical being that I have, where I can feel the rain on my skin. It's not about doing what's normal or doing what people view as sane. It's just about being in that moment. It's just about doing you in that moment. It's about being present. You know, for Kenya's answers to have words like create and flow and to just be to know that there is another human being on planet Earth that has felt the way that I felt leads me to believe that I am not alone, that there are more people out there who are doing so. And there are plenty of people out there doing so. There are plenty of Black people out there doing so. There are so many Black people who are like me, who love to twerk, but also love to be spiritual as hell. I love listening to Megan Thee Stallion, but I promise you I will not sing that one part in Ashanti's Rain on Me song. Y'all know what part I'm talking about. Because I believe that word just spells. Words are powerful. I try to be careful with what I say. Although I'm human, I stick my foot in my mouth. But being vulnerable and knowing that I am capable of change, knowing that I am capable of sitting in a present moment where I'm constantly creating, where I am just letting things flow from me without having a second thought, gives me the space to realize I am capable of finding my authentic self. I am capable of being my most authentic self. And can't nobody stop that. One monkey ain't gonna stop my show. You just have to keep going. You have to keep believing in yourself, and you have to find a community that feels the way that you do as well. And I thank Kenya so much for her answers. I really do appreciate her for like taking the time out to answer those questions. I feel like I had more questions, but I was like, nah, I think I want to save those for when I really meet her in real life. Come to find out too, like we stay in the same state, in the same city. I was like, this is too big of again, I didn't tell her that because I was like, I know some people be like, that's a little weird, but it's just too, to me, it's too big of a coincidence that she was one of the first pages that I found on LinkedIn when I had just prayed to the universe. I was like, please let me find women of color who are in the weed and who are in this industry and who are just as different as me, who are just as unique as I am. Because on this journey of trying to find out what authenticity means to me, I have already learned so much about myself. I am in love with myself. And I see reflections of myself in people all the time. And it brings me to this state of, God damn it, do I love humans? Even though I'm terrified of y'all sometimes, because y'all can be so mean, like I'm not a human. But I just to know that there are people, you know, and that she was put in my path for this reason specifically, and maybe some other reasons. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. And I'm gonna have to tell her that, hey, go and check out the episode because it's out now. But you know, to see other people being in their authenticity just sets my soul on fire in the most pleasant of ways. And it does start with being vulnerable and knowing what you want from your life. It starts with you saying, hey, I'm gonna change some things because what I was doing before just don't feel right. It don't flow with me anymore. It feels like instead of flowing, it's a rock that's being put in my path and I'm not comfortable with it. I want to change. So now bypass that rock, flow past that rock. Do what you will with that information too. Like, just take time to be in your present moment. Take time to create and recreate yourself. Take time to do the things that feel best to you. Being vulnerable allows us to be our most authentic selves. And if we are not vulnerable, it creates the need to repress those essential parts of ourselves that could connect us to a greater, higher meaning, being, community, what have you. Like for me, for example, I know that everyone sees me, especially when they first meet me. First of all, I overuse emojis whenever I'm talking to people because I don't want anyone to see what I'm saying because you can't read tone over text kind of thing. So I try to be very careful with that by throwing in some emojis. Also, just because I'm a sparkly ass bitch and I like that. But I'm known as like a very, very friendly, bubbly, open person who's always got a smile on her face. I'm always extremely joyous. I'm always looking on the brighter side of things thanks to my Sagittarius placements. I love it, but at the same time, I do have the penchant for toxic positivity. And that's just because a lot of the stuff I feel like we worry about sometimes as human beings is so small on a scale to our actual experience that I'm just like, hey, chill. Just just chill. Like you don't have to worry about all that stuff right now. It's not necessary. But the reason I'm like that is because I have very dark days. And I have seen people in my life not be able to handle those parts of me. Those very people often see me as unstable or crazy or, oh, I dropped my water bottle. Those people tend to see me as just like being like very unstable. I think sometimes, like when I was a kid, I didn't know what my anxiety and depression looked like. I didn't know where it was coming from. So like I think my family just automatically thought, oh my God, we need to like get her help because she's something's wrong with her. I feel like if I honestly told people how I can like switch on and off where I can go from being negative, negative, negative to being like, nope, stop that. Rewire your brain into saying every negative thought I have, I try to balance it out with a positive thought. Especially if I notice myself spiraling. So even though it took time and it takes time, I feel like they would really want to lock me up. Sometimes I have this overwhelming amount of energy in me, or it's mostly stagnant energy where I didn't allow myself to feel at some point. Excuse me, now all of a sudden I'm just crying out of nowhere. This is why I say I cry a lot and I know it freaks people out, but I'll cry like 12 tears and then I'm done. And then I'm like, whew, all right. All right, I feel better. I feel better. And then I sit there and I try to feel where that came from, maybe without going back to that space for real. I write it down, I journal it, I sing it out, I draw it out, I write poetry. I do whatever feels good to me in that moment to make sure that whatever it was that I was feeling, I'm now expressing instead of just holding it in again and allowing myself to break down and cry. But that is because I recognize, much like all human beings on planet Earth, that emotions are just energy in motion. And sometimes we just need that shit out. And if you need to cry for a cool 5 seconds where you only cry like 5 tears and then you're like, all right, I'm done. I feel better. I'll be the person to be that with. Cool. Like you need some water, some crackers, you want a snack, you want to go smoke. Like you want to take a walk, you want to talk about like what you want to do, dog. Like let's play Uno, let's do something. Like what does your body feel like you need to do right now? How can we go ahead and filter through this emotion? How can we express it? I always wonder why it is people don't feel comfortable doing that. Cause I do it by myself a lot, but I know that if I were to do it in front of somebody else, they'd probably be like, she is weird as hell. I gotta get out of here. And so I try to repress those parts of me. I really try to push them down and make sure that nobody sees those versions of me and nobody even can accidentally see through a crack because I am scared that the amount of things that I feel, knowing that a lot of people around me already couldn't handle those parts of me, I am afraid that I would be a burden to them or that maybe I may not be able to help them when they need to. Because there are times where I'm just like, yes, I can hold that space for you. And then there are other times where I'm like, oh, dog, I don't know if I could do it. And then there are people who just don't deserve that from me. I think I will do my next episode on boundaries because that's what this is leading into, because I recognize, and I think I touched on that on the last episode too, was that those types of things have to have boundaries to them. Because yes, there are some people that you can most definitely overshare with, and those people are the people that are like, ooh, I don't like doing that, or you're not the person that I choose to do that with, so like you're gonna have to not do that around me. And I would be the person to overshare, because I feel like the moment that you allow me to get these words out, especially since as a kid I wasn't allowed to talk a lot, like I wasn't really allowed to express myself, like I feel like I get word vomit. And I mean it just projectile, and I end up getting a little too personal too fast for a lot of people, and they feel uncomfortable with that. And I'm just like, look, my bad, dog. It's childhood trauma, and I know that that may be a little too deep for you, but I just want to let you know that if it doesn't make you feel comfortable, then let me know, and I'll not do that with you. You know, I'll know that that's just not what you can handle. So, like I said, some people are just not your people that you're supposed to go through certain things with. And that includes your family. Because again, I think we see them as our family, that they're supposed to be there for certain things. But in reality, you have to look at them like they're individuals, not always like they're your family. Because some people really are not supposed to handle my weird. They just can't. There are some facets of me that I know people are not capable of handling. And it causes me to keep those things hidden from everyone that I come into contact with, because I'm so afraid of being vulnerable. I'm so afraid that, again, it's going to be another person that just can't handle me crying. They can't handle me being hysterical. They can't handle me being overly emotional or overly sensitive. You know, they can't handle me being loud and crazy but being quiet and observant in public. They can't handle me when I have my social anxiety. They can't handle me when I have my long bouts of depression where I just can't talk to nobody. I'm so afraid of people thinking that those parts of me are too much, that I end up repressing them, and then I become I don't want to say, I'll say I'll become a part of a mask of who I really am, because I really am a bright and bubbly person. I love being happy. I love seeing the good in things. You know what I mean? But I also know that there's some shitty stuff on planet Earth. I also know that there are just certain people that I can't do things around. There's even some black people that I'm like, I can't be black around you because I feel like you don't even like being black. So it's just like, because I'm not even gonna lie to you. I got a friend that I'm just like, you give me I vote for Trump vibes. But the thing is like I I appreciate, this person because they they have opposite views, and yet I never feel like I'm being attacked or that this person wants me to see things their way. It always feels like a happy debate, as opposed to you're wrong and you're an idiot. You know what I mean? I don't know, stream of consciousness is, I feel like. But it's just, there are just some people, you can't show those things to. So you do have to create the necessary boundaries, not only with yourself, but with other people, in order to keep yourself safe and in order to keep them safe. That way there's this happy flow of energy and ideas and knowledge and opportunities between two completely different but similar parallel beings. I do feel like that there just needs to be that open channel of, you may be different from me, but I'm willing to learn from you, and vice versa. And with that, you have to have a level of compassion, a level of understanding, but you also have to sit your ass down and shut up and listen. And like I said, It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of just going for it. Because vulnerability is not one of those things that you can say, oh, okay, well, here's my game plan for how I'm going to be vulnerable with that person. You can't do that. Again, I don't know if anybody else is like me out there, but I know that there's some people out there like me. When I think about things like that, I'm a planner, and it sucks because I'm not necessarily a doer. If plan, I plan to the point to where I'm like, oh, well, now I can't do it because all of my plans seem like they're just going to crash in the end. With these episodes, I think I've put out 3 or 4 episodes so far, and I have not listened to one of them back again. I've barely edited them. I just put them out there how they were because I'm like, I know that if I go through and I edit it or quote unquote edit it, I'm just going to be hacking up the entire episode, and it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be my inner ramblings of where my life is and where I want it to go and the things that I'm thinking about. I know that it's just going to be me trying to fix it so I sound like the perfect podcaster, which is a bunch of shit, because if we can give mics to idiots who know all about women but know nothing about women, then I can get my ass on here and say the things that I need to say, especially if I think it's going to help further the community, human beings as a whole, especially if this is going to help Black people, because I'm not going to lie to you. Things that I do are always going to be for Black people first. Okay? We're just going to put that out there. Black people mean more to me than anything. And I want for women as well. I just want for the most unprotected communities to be seen and to be heard. I want for there to truly be a place for everybody, because I know that there is a place for everybody. So I'm going to quit rambling now because this episode is long, and I'm going to go ahead and give some tips to help cultivate vulnerability, because again, your girl was not knowledgeable on that. I did, I was like, what? How am I even going to help people? Granted, me talking is gonna help, but how am I really gonna help people? So, Chat GPT told me that there's a couple of things that you can do in order to be vulnerable, or to even just help kind of create that space around you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like I said, being vulnerable is not one of those things that you can say, okay, this is how I'm gonna plan to be vulnerable. It's just something that you gotta jump into. Like you have to do. Like you gotta get out there and you just gotta do it. But the number one way was to be selective about when, where, and with whom you are vulnerable with. Now, didn't I just talk about that? Some people are just not supposed to be there for you. I think in the last episode I touched on real quick, like when I had a healing session with a mentor of mine, her name's Shika Chika, on all platforms, YouTube and Instagram. But she is um a healer, and I was blessed with a session with her, and we went through me getting out repressed anger that I didn't even know that I had. I was not even aware that I had this. So when I was doing so, I had to do it in a way that my family thought that I was losing my mind. And when I told my sister about it, she was basically like, yeah, I would have been worried about you too. I'm like, you would have been worried about me healing? How weird does that sound? You were worried about me healing? Do you not hear how that sounds? So I was just like, okay, you just can't be a part of my healing journey, because the way that I heal is very different from, I guess, how you feel like it should be done, or how you feel like, healing should be. That screaming exercise helped me so much that there are times where I'm just about in my regular day and I'm like, I just want to scream. And you should, because that is your body telling you, you got something that you need to let out, and you need to let it out. So you have to be very selective with your community and who you allow to create that vulnerable space with, because you have to be strict about, you know, talking about those certain things. Because I'm telling you, in my family of black and brown people, if I were to say that I did something like that, they would be like, okay, that's weird. That's unusual, but okay. And then, I would be known as the crazy cousin or the woo-woo cousin. When in reality, some of these practices have been done by our ancestors. And again, going back to that, I don't know which ancestor it was that gave me these powers, but I know that they were a feminist at heart. They just cared all about women, because I don't know who I got this from, but it wasn't from my mom, it wasn't from my grandmother, it wasn't from my aunt, but I got this from somebody. And thank you, ancestors. Thank you, bloodline, because I needed this. We needed this. But anyway, but it's just like, talking to somebody about race or racism and black issues with a non-black person, i.e., the example that I had for y'all earlier. And they say some cross ass shit where you're just like, you know what? I can't talk about this with you. And I see that now because you didn't even give me a safe space to say what I had to say and sit your ass down and shut up. In that same vein, I actually had another friend. I should reach out to these people. I really should, because I need to have some conversations with them. I tend to ghost people. Again, it's me not wanting to get vulnerable and me getting vulnerable and not getting the response that I expected. And now I feel like I need to shut myself off. I'm working on it. Don't judge me. I'm working on it. It's a constant work in progress. I swear to you. But in that same vein, in that same place, I had another friend who, when we sat down and talked about black spirituality and being black in that space, because again, I was the only black person, she gave me the space to talk. And she gave me reassurance that, what I was feeling and experiencing was completely valid. And she had no space to say anything because she wasn't black, but she could understand from a woman's perspective. So again, to have that sort of community and that sort of camaraderie, like, thank you so much, Christina. One of these days, like, I know you're going to listen to this. I'm putting it out there already. Thank you so much, because you really did give me a glimpse of what it means to be an ally, and know that you don't understand what it's like to come from a black household, but still understand that there is a problem within the structure that we have, that we need to do better. So like I said, the moment that I found out that those other two woman coworkers had reacted that way, I was like, I can't talk to y'all about this stuff. And with me being the type of bitch that I am, being a black woman is so important to me, because my mother is a black woman. My grandmother is a black woman. My sister is a black woman. My aunt, my cousins, they are all black women. You know what I mean? So to know that I cannot talk to y'all about stuff like this, it lets me know that I just got to dip. Like, if they can be corrected, then do so. You know what I mean? However, I do have to reiterate that it is not your job to correct some people. That's why in that moment I was like, damn, I don't even really know how to handle this situation. So I think I'm gonna just say, it's not the same, and then just walk off, because I can't. Do I want to down this hill right now? Like, I didn't even have the necessary emotional tools to get through that conversation without cursing somebody out. So I was like, let me go ahead and take a step back, because I don't know if I'm ready for that. So if they can be corrected, and you know that you have maybe fostered that sort of community with a person who is non-black and you can talk about those issues with, then do so. You know what I mean? If they can be corrected, be like, hey, that shit wasn't cool. I don't appreciate it. This is why it was wrong. This is how I feel like I need you to be here for me. Like, going onward. If you really want to have a friendship, a relationship, a work relationship with me, if you really want to be together in my company, this is how you're going to have to act. This is protocol, and we can have it no other way. And if they can't be corrected, then you're going to have to dip. And to tag onto that, like I said, those boundaries are set to keep you safe. You know, those boundaries are there to say, hey, these are not the type of people that I can go to a rally with, or these are not the type of people that I can talk to about. You know, these they just can't be there for me in that way. They're to protect you so that you're not out here being vulnerable around the wrong people. And it's easier said than done. And I think it's gonna take some practice. But always, always, in order to help yourself not feel so alone, you have to try to find like mentors in the Black community. Someone to help you navigate this. And if you know any communities, then be open with them. And give that information to Black people in need. You know what I mean? If you see another Black person going through it and you're like, look, like I got you. I've got the necessary channels to bring you into cuz it can't be like no crabs in a barrel. In order for all of us to be uplifted, we really do have to start uplifting one another, and we have to be there for each other. And like I said, some people can't be there for you in the way that you need them to, but if they can meet you somewhere else halfway, give them the opportunity to do so. And build up that self-love and that self-worth. That'll like you must know, all of my beautiful Black souls out there, you have to know that you are deserving of vulnerability. You are deserving of being in your authenticity. You are deserving of that. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Reframe your thinking that vulnerability is a weakness and that it's taboo and that Black people don't need to do that. Reframe the thinking of what happens in this home stays in this home, because that is a dangerous thought pattern if I ain't ever seen one. And with that, I'll leave y'all with some questions that I would like for you to sit with. Sit with and answer. See how you view vulnerability. So some of the questions, you just jot them down, write them down, do a voice note, what have you. Why do we see being vulnerable as weak? Why is that narrative changing? How can we further that narrative to help make a more commonplace, to make it more commonplace to be vulnerable, to have a more common ground of, hey, it's okay if a Black man cries. It's okay if a Black woman gets angry. And that not all crying is weak. Crying is not weak at all, actually. And just because somebody is passionate or standing up for themselves does not mean they're angry. And even if they are, check your privilege. Is it valid? See where the anger is coming from. Don't just automatically try to silence somebody. As a Black person as well, how do you feel when others show vulnerability around you? Do you tense up? Does your skin prickle a little bit? Feel almost like a weird clammy feeling? Does it feel uncomfortable for you? Figure out why. How do we balance being open and protecting ourselves from getting hurt? Figure out what your boundaries are. What does that mean to you? What does it look like to you? If you were to create the perfect place of being able to be vulnerable but also still being protected, what does that look like to you? How can we connect while keeping boundaries? Do these ways of showing vulnerability and authenticity look different based off of who we hang around, based off of other Black people, or if we hang around white people, or Latinx people, or Asians? How does it look? And what does being vulnerable and advocating for yourself look like? And now to really close it out, because I've been running my mouth. I knew this one was going to be just as long as the last one, if not longer, because this one was a deep topic for me. But boundaries is probably going to be even worse, child. Lord. Much like vulnerability, I'm sorry, much like life, vulnerability is a journey. You know, you have to keep working at it because we are ever changing beings. So sometimes a boundary may have to, be relaxed, or you may have to put up a more strict one. I don't think vulnerability is a destination. I think it's something that you have to constantly and consistently work at because everybody is changing. And your mind can change on how vulnerable you want to be with a person, or how vulnerable somebody may want to be with you. And for Black people especially, it requires a vast amount of courage just to face the risks and unlearn unhealthy coping mechanisms. But know that you, my beautiful Black person, my beautiful Black spirit, I am talking to you. You are not alone. You are loved. You're valuable. Your feelings, your experiences are valid. You have community. You are seen. I see you. You are heard. I hear you. So please reach out to any of these sites. The BorisHensonFoundation.org. You can also search BLHF online. They provide mental health services, finding mental health services in your area. And bad bitches have bad days too. .com. Find a community. Take to Instagram. Hell, get lucky and take to LinkedIn like I did. Find somebody that you can create a safe space with, because it is time for us to be vulnerable. It is time for us as Black people to come out of a shadow of shame and guilt and embarrassment. It's time for us to see one another. I love you all. And I'm praying and hoping and wishing for the best of everything that comes to you. So, with that, I will catch y'all on the next one where I'm rambling some more. You can subscribe, like, comment, share, all the things. Do whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. If you want to leave constructive criticism, do it, because I'm all about expansion. Well, till next time, friends. Bye bye.